guys, welcome back to my channel. So today, if you read the title of the video, you'll know that I'm going to be teaching you some tips and tricks for Recolor. I'm not sure how many of you watching actually use Recolor, but you know, we'll see how it goes. So what I'm doing right now is trying to choose a background. This picture does not originally have a background, so I'm just choosing a nice gradient picture to use for it. And then we'll have to fill in the background by holding down on a spot with the color and then going over it with a crayon. So next thing you'll want to do after you finish your background, some pictures have more complicated backgrounds, maybe I'll make a video on that. Anyway, after you finish your background, the next thing you'll want to do is the skin. You might want to choose 3 skin tones, one for just a regular skin tone, one for shading, and one for lighting. Of course, you can always just use white for highlighting if you'd like. So I'd recommend doing the first shade first, the middle shade first, and then doing the shading and then the highlighting, because the highlighting usually will go over it unless, of course, there's a circumstance where you should do the shading first. I mean the highlighting. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm doing this all in one take. So, yeah. If just the solid crayon gets to be too much for you, press the little circle button at the top in the middle and it will give like an airbrush effect. I actually use that more than I use just the solid crayon because it's just better for details and it's not as hard to make mistakes if you use that. But for this picture specifically, I've been using the solid crayon a lot, as you can see, because it has a lot of bold lines. So after you've got your skin, you'll want to do either the clothes or the hair, whatever comes first. And one thing I want to mention is that if there is something that is gray or black, you should always color it in. Now, I know what you're thinking, but the picture is already in black and white, so what's the point? I don't know what it is, but after a while of coloring this, sometimes you can just tell when someone hasn't colored it, and I don't know, I think it just looks better if you do color it. It shows that you're more professional. Obviously, I'm not a professional, but I'm just doing my best. So, as for the accessories on the head, oftentimes it's best to just leave them after you've colored the hair, but whatever. And then I'm doing all of the gray parts, even things like the eyelashes that are already pretty dark. But yeah, just to make it a little more professional. And then make sure you shade that too. Well, you don't necessarily need to shade it, but I like to highlight it a lot, which is what we are doing now. So the next thing to do is the yellow. One thing I would like to point out is that you should never ever use the free crayons. If you use the free crayons, it's just very unprofessional. The way to get, obviously if you go to the crayon section and you don't have premium, then it's gonna try to get you to pay for them if you use the crayons. But what you can do is go to the solid colors. I prefer using the solid colors over the gradients, unless of course it's for like a background or something cool like that, like we did here. So go to your solid colors and then just press any random part of the picture. It might go over some of the parts you've already colored, but that's okay. So then once you put it down, go to the crayon section, hold it down, and then it will become a crayon in your recent section, and then you can just go back and all your coloring will be there. I know it sounds confusing, but I did it for certain parts in this video, and if you try it yourself, then you'll see that it works. And so coloring hair can take a long time, but you really just got to be patient with it. So like I said, do the middle color first, and then do the shading and or highlighting. I did these kind of both at the same time because there were just a lot of little yellow sections and I didn't want to forget anything. So, yeah. But do the shading first and then the highlighting, always. Well, no, not always. Sometimes it's best to do the highlighting before the shading. But, you know, sometimes, like when you're doing hair, the highlight goes over the shading, and so we don't want to, like, cut that off by doing the shading afterwards and giving it an unnatural look, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you have any idea, if you know what any of the things I'm saying are. I feel like I'm being very confusing, but yeah. Then the color shading yellow things is kind of hard if you're using just the random solid colors. Like, you can tell it's not a very different shade, but that's okay. If you want to use some different colors, you can go into like the palettes and look for a color. I do that a lot when I'm looking for a specific color. If you still can't find what you're looking for, you can make your own color. There's actually a feature where you can make your own palettes. It says My Palettes, and you can put your own colors in that to get things really specific. I don't really use that like ever, but it's there if, say, there's a specific color you want. I know a lot of people, like the actually professional people, not me, use that to make their own skin tones, but I just use the 3 or 4 rightmost on the skin tone section in the solid color section. And then yes, so make sure you highlight everything, not just the hair. Everything that should be highlighted, especially those like little white highlights. Like, obviously we're highlighting the yellow things with lighter yellow, but make sure you highlight like the hair too, and the eyes. Those are very important. And whenever I see people didn't do that when it's just so easy to do so, it just makes me sad. And it makes you look a lot less unprofessional. Obviously this video isn't called How to Be Professional, it's just tips and tricks for Recolor, but I don't know, man, I don't know. So yes, make sure you highlight everything that needs to be highlighted, and then I think we're done coloring actually. So there's a lot of cool effects you can use. I used to use those a lot, but nowadays I don't really use any of them unless like it's a specific type of picture. Like if it looks cool with like a watercolor effect, use the watercolor, but a lot of times I just like to make the colors as bright and vibrant as possible, and I want to make sure you can see them, so I just go with nothing. And then for the filters, Recolor has a lot of filters, although a lot of them just aren't good. Like all of these, they really limit the color and you can't see all of the work you put into the shading. So I always use either orange or banana. Lately it's been a lot of banana, and you can actually hold down on the picture and slide it up and down to adjust the color to get it just how you want it, like this. And here is the final result. I think it turned out pretty well. Again, the shading on the yellow wasn't too great. We could always do that different if we wanted, but yep, that's just how I do things.